What's going on, everybody? This is Derek J407, and I'm here to give you my thoughts on Impact Wrestling for the first time in a very long time, and I'm here to talk to you about their biggest pay-per-view of the year, one of their only pay-per-views of the year, as a matter of fact, Bound For Glory 2018, live in the Melrose Ballroom in Queens, New York, around my neck of the woods, but of course, not in New York right now. I'm in Ohio right now, so as you can tell, I'm an OVE supporter because of that. But earlier this year, I watched Slammiversary. Really enjoyed it. Didn't get a chance to put up a review of it, but I really enjoyed that show. I haven't watched Impact on a weekly basis, but I have caught things here and there, and from what I've seen, for the most part, I rather enjoy the show. The company overall has gotten a huge rebranding and has definitely improved greatly in terms of quality and content and all that kind of stuff. So hats off to Don Callis and Scott D'Amore, who are pretty much running things in Impact right now, and put on another great show here. A lot of the matches on this show were just fantastic. A lot of the storytelling was really great, and the ending, as confusing as it was, will definitely get people talking. Unfortunately, a lot of those talks won't include the fact that we have a new Impact World Champion, that being Johnny Impact, or Mundo, Morrison, whatever you want to call him. The stuff with Austin Aries at the end, which I'll get into more in depth when we get to that point, but that'll definitely have people talking for a while, I'm sure. But overall, the show top to bottom was really good, so I had to talk about it. I purchased the show on pay-per-view, which hopefully a lot of you did too, and didn't just get a stream, an illegal stream. Hopefully some of you put your money into it. I did. Ordered it on Fight TV. The stream worked really, really well. Anytime it kind of paused or anything like that, all I had to do was just hit the stop button and then press play again, and it picked right back up. So pretty much flawless stream, and matched a pretty much flawless show. But we'll go ahead and get into things here. The opener was a tag team match. Reborn, Matt Sydal, with All Ego Ethan Page taking on Rich Swann and Willie Mack. This was a very fun opener. Of course, Matt Sydal has taken Ethan Page under his wing, so he was pretty much coaching him a lot in this match. At one point, they were working over Swann, and Page did some move to him, and he was trying to tag in Matt Sydal, and Sydal was like, great, now pin him. And then he went over to pin him, got a near fall, and then went to tag him. So Sydal was pretty much teaching him as the match went on. Unfortunately, that didn't pay off towards the end of it, though. At one point, there was a really cool spot where Swann was propped up on the top turnbuckle, and Matt did a leaping Hurricane Rana from the ring all the way up top to Rich Swann, and gave him Hurricane Rana off the top, and then as he was coming off, Swann landed on Ethan Page and gave him a Hurricane Rana. So I thought that was a pretty cool spot. But in the end, there was miscommunication between Ethan Page and Matt Sydal, and that cost Sydal, because he ended up getting laid out, got hit with the Phoenix Splash from Rich Swann, and got the victory for himself and Willie Mack. Willie Mack, of course, was really good in this match. His physique leaves a lot to be desired. Actually, his physique matches my physique, although I think I have a little more muscle mass than him, but not much. After the match, he cut, some promo talking about the sponsor for the show, and just some other goofy stuff. But good stuff here. They showed backstage Conan, of course, the manager for LAX. He was laid out. I think he had like a barbell or something like that laid out over him. He pinned it on King, who was the one who attacked him, so he was pretty much out for the match. Coming later on in the night, a concrete jungle death match, and we'll get to that when we get to that. But match-wise, up next, we had Eli Drake out for his big open challenge to anyone from New York to come out and accept his challenge. This got a lot of people thinking maybe Tommy Dreamer, maybe Bully Ray. A lot of people were thinking Chris Jericho might show up on this show. He has been rumored to make an appearance on Bound For Glory for a few weeks now, and people were thinking, hey, people who were doing some digging, they realized that Chris Jericho was born in New York. He is from Canada. He's Canadian, but he was born in New York, so he technically counts. But it was none of those people. After Eli Drake cut a very entertaining promo, the dude has a lot of charisma. He cut a really good promo, and out came James Ellsworth, who was met with "fuck you Ellsworth" chants, so they were not pleased to see him. He mentioned how he's technically not from New York, but his ex-girlfriend is from Staten Island, and he lived in her basement for a few months. So, I think we all know who he was referring to there. But, yeah, the match happened, and Ellsworth was the surprise. So we had a match between Eli Drake and James Ellsworth. The fans shat all over Ellsworth. They were all behind Eli Drake. At one point, Ellsworth did hit, sweet or no chin music. I was about to say sweet chin music, but it was no chin music. But it was only good for a near fall. But eventually Eli Drake hit him with his gravy train finishing move. Fans chanted one more time, and he obliged, hit him with him one more time, and got the win. Then after the match, Eli got back on the microphone talking about how he wants to face top talent, Hall of Fame talent, and as soon as he said that, I knew exactly who was about to come out, and sure enough, it was the monster Abyss, who got inducted into the Impact Hall of Fame the previous night. He came out there, was about to give him a choke slam through a table, but Eli got him with a low blow. He went up, I think on the middle turnbuckle, was about to do some kind of move, only to be caught in midair and get hit with a choke slam right through the table. So, Abyss looked old, but, I guess cool to see him have his moment. A little underwhelming as far as the surprise is concerned, but, it is what it is. It's not like Chris Jericho was promoted for the show. All of us just assumed he might make an appearance. So that's our own fault for thinking too much. Up next, the Knockouts Championship on the line. Tessa Blanchard defending her championship against Taya Valkyrie. This was a really good match. Very evenly matched between the two of them. Tessa Blanchard has been on a roll in Impact ever since she won the championship, and even before that, but especially since she's won the championship. So seeing someone like Taya Valkyrie pretty much on her level, it made for a really good back and forth match between the two of them. At one point, Taya hit a superplex on Tessa, and after she hit it, she still kept her locked in and put her in a front face lock, a seated front face lock. So I thought that was a pretty cool transition. A little sloppy, but it was nice. But eventually Tessa broke free of it. Later on, Taya hit her with a choke slam and then a moonsault. A much better moonsault than what Charlotte does sometimes. Charlotte's moonsaults are, when the person is laid out, it looks kind of bad, but when they're standing up, it looks a little bit better. But yeah, Taya didn't get all of it, but she got majority of it, but it was only good for a 2 count. She hit her finishing move, the Road to Valhalla, but I think it was during a point when Tessa was locked in like a submission hold or something like that. She got to the ropes and started to pull on the ring skirt and got most of it in the ring, so the referee went over to kind of clear that part up. So Taya hit her move, the referee eventually turned around, but it was only good for a 2 count. So she goes for the Road to Valhalla again, but Tessa ended up stomping on her foot. threw her into the ring post and got her buzzsaw DDT move, but it was only good for a 2 count as well. At this point, the fans were losing their shit, as they were for majority of the stuff on this show. Taya went for a power bomb, but Tessa reversed it into a Hurricane Rana, knocked her face first into the middle turnbuckle, went up to the top rope and hit her Magnum finishing move, which is she dives off the top rope and hits you with a code breaker. Hopefully she doesn't do that all the time, because I don't think that's a finisher you want to be doing every week, but it was a really cool visual, and she got the 1, 2, 3, so Tessa Blanchard retained Knockouts Championship. She's one of the best female wrestlers in the entire world right now. It's a shame WWE didn't sign her when they had the chance to, but yeah, she's doing very well here in Impact right now, so at least she has somewhere to shine. Up next, we had Moose versus Eddie Edwards. The bell rang, and immediately Eddie Edwards went after Moose. He eventually hit him with his Boston Knee Party move. And then he went to the outside to get his kendo stick, who the commentators, who were Josh Matthews and Don Callis, mentioned that his kendo stick's name is Kenny. So I was waiting for someone to break the stick and Don Callis say, "Oh my god, they killed Kenny," or something like that, but that never happened. But he went to get his kendo stick, and out of nowhere, Killer Cross was in the crowd. Of course, Killer Cross and Moose are aligned with Austin Aries. So he served as backup here, put him in some kind of chokehold and caused for the DQ. They get him back in the ring, start to double team him, and out comes Tommy Dreamer, who makes the save and basically makes it a tag team match, pretty much a hardcore tag team match, because they started to use weapons and stuff like that. One of the sickest, grossest things I've ever seen in wrestling took place here. So Tommy Dreamer was drinking a bunch of shit, spitting in Moose's face and Killer Cross's face, and Eddie Edwards spit some stuff too. Then we get to a point where Tommy Dreamer is on the ring apron. He has water or something in his mouth. He basically spits it into Eddie Edwards' mouth. Oof. And Eddie spits it at Moose. That was disgusting. Some more hardcore shit was happening. Honestly, I kind of lost interest when Tommy Dreamer got involved. It's not that I hate Tommy Dreamer, although I did hate that water spot between him and Eddie. That was gross. But now I'm just kind of over seeing the ECW legends and all that kind of shit, even in Impact or TNA, whatever they're called. You know, it gets old after a while. Even Bully Ray doing his heel stuff in Ring of Honor right now, it's fine, but it's like, I'm kind of over all that stuff. Moose got his hands on the kendo stick, but Eddie Edwards ended up rolling him up to get the win for himself and Tommy Dreamer. But the victory was short-lived, because after the match, he got beat up by Moose and Killer Cross, and ended up getting an assisted powerbomb on the outside on the ring apron. So it looked brutal. It just splat him right on top of it. But yeah, so Dreamer and Edwards get the win, but it is Moose and Killer Cross who stand tall. And just so you know, every single time I mentioned Moose's name, I pretty much did the fist pump gesture. So there you go. Up next was the 6-man tag team match, OVE, Ohio versus Everything, the team of the Christ brothers, Jake and Dave, and of course, Sami Calihan taking on Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and the X Division champion, Brian Cage. This was an OVE rules match, kind of like Raven's rules, where it's basically no DQ, but it's designed to favor OVE in this case. This match was just non-stop action all throughout. Like, as soon as the bell rang, just crazy action from the start. Everyone started super kicking each other and doing front kicks and all that kind of shit to each other. It looked brutal, but it looked awesome. And then, like I said, from there, a bunch of crazy shit happened. A lot of flips, a lot of kicks, a lot of really high-flying, innovative moves. At one point, Cage, Brian Cage that is, he had Sami Calihan in position for a fall-away slam and hit it, but he slammed him over his head and out on to the outside onto everyone. There was one spot that looked like it was about to be cool, but unfortunately, it may have been trying too hard and resulted in its inevitable botch. So Phoenix was on top of Pentagon's shoulders, and they were going for some move, I think, on either Calihan or Dave Christ, but it was Jake who tried to do a cutter off of Pentagon's shoulders on Phoenix off of Pentagon's shoulders, but on the way down, it basically got botched. It kind of turned into a stunner a little bit, but it looked pretty ugly. So that was a very ugly part of the match. At one point, Phoenix got knocked off of the top rope and basically landed on the ramp way, because the ramp way is connected to the ring. Sami Calihan gave Pentagon a pile driver on the ring apron. So that took out the Lucha Brothers, and it was down to Brian Cage against the entire OVE. They tried another shoulder spot, but in this case, Brian Cage was on Dave Christ's shoulders, and Sami was on top of Jake's shoulders, and Sami hit a cutter on Cage off of Dave's shoulders. So it was kind of a dumb spot, but it looked cool, and it made up for the botch from earlier. And then after like a bunch of rapid fire kicks to Brian Cage, who was basically on his knees just getting these rapid fire kicks from all three men, Sami Calihan ended up hitting him with a pile driver to get the win. So he pinned the X Division champion. I think it was Don Callis who mentioned that this was the first time Brian Cage has been pinned since coming to Impact. So that's a big win for Sami Calihan, and I think it's pretty obvious this sets up a big X Division championship feud between the two of them. So that should be fun. They showed a backstage interview with Austin Aries, which was just tremendous. It lasted a few minutes. He was just cutting a promo on Johnny Impact and all that kind of stuff. It was a great promo, just great mic work from Austin Aries here. But the main point that he got to was that what he said in the build up to the match about Killer Kross and Moose not being in his corner, he changed his mind and he wants them in his corner for the main event tonight, and he also wants Taya to be out there for Johnny Impact. So he wants all the family out there. So that was the main point he drove to at the end. But up to that point, it was a really good promo. So seek this promo out if you can. But of course, it only went this long because they were setting up for the next match, which was the Concrete Jungle Death Match. The finale, basically, between this big feud between LAX, which is comprised of Santana and Ortiz, against the OGs, that mean the original members of LAX, Hernandez and Homicide, and of course King, or Eddie Kingston, was in their corner. And of course, as we saw earlier in the night, Conan was taken out, so he was not going to be in the match with Santana and Ortiz, so they were by themselves. So this match was structured where everything was pretty much free. The padding on the ring was free and gone, so it was just an exposed wood with one piece of wood sticking out. The turnbuckle pads were gone, the ring skirts were gone, so all you saw was the steel bars and stuff. This looked like a complete recipe for disaster, but fortunately, it was not too bad. It was brutal as hell, especially anytime anyone took any move on that wood, especially like some parts of the wood were kind of exposed, like wood was kind of falling in and out of place a little bit, so there was cracks. You thought somebody was gonna fall through or get their foot stuck or slip or break something or dislocate something or something like that, but fortunately, to what I saw, nothing like that happened. Hernandez got busted open early on. I think it was from when Ortiz was coming in, hitting him and homicide with the trash can lid. I think he hit Hernandez pretty good and got busted open. But yeah, I was trying to pay attention to the action, but I was distracted by the wood boards kind of falling in and out of place, so that kind of put a damper on things for a little bit. But the match was actually really good. At one point, Hernandez gave Homicide a border toss, but he border tossed him over the ring, over the top rope onto Santana and Ortiz, who were on the outside. Later on in the match, Hernandez and Ortiz were going back and forth. Ortiz had him down for a quick second, but then Hernandez gave him the pounce, and it was with such force that he pounced him into the air through the table in the propped up in the corner, and I thought that was a really cool spot. Eventually, later on, LAX got the upper hand for a little bit. They gave Hernandez a double superplex off the top rope, landing right onto the wooden boards. But then, of course, the OGs, got back into things. Homicide and King. King had Ortiz down, and that's when the original LAX music hit. Out came Conan to a big pop from the crowd. He had a bag, like a black bag of something, maybe like a marble or a something. Well, not a marble, but like a pool ball or whatever. It was something was in there because he was using it on Homicide. He gave Homicide a low blow and then hit him with it, and then hit Hernandez with it, and then he came to blows with King. So this was basically the fight that a lot of people were waiting to see. They came to blows for a little bit, and then eventually Ortiz and Santana got back into the thick of things, and they beat down King and hit him with the street sweeper right onto the wooden boards and got the win. So the LAX team, the young guys, they get the win. They go over. I assume this ends the feud. This feud, they had a match back at Slammiversary, and now we're in October at Bound For Glory. You would think this would be the end of the feud, but don't know that for sure. But it seemed pretty definitive to me. I don't know how you can top this. So yeah, let's just go ahead and assume this was the end of the feud. Like I said, I expected something much worse. So it was pretty tame compared to what I thought might happen. So good stuff. Up next was not really a match, it was more of a skit, kind of in the style of something you would see in Lucha Underground, or something like what we saw in WWE with the House of Horrors, or the New Day Wyatt family compound fight. Only much better than that, but not quite as good as the stuff in Lucha Underground. It was Allie. She went to the Undead Realm, the world of Su Yung, to try to rescue her friend Kiera Hogan. So she made a deal with James Mitchell to get her there, and he was telling her that she sold her soul to him, and she can't get her soul back. So you can look, but you can't touch it, and all that kind of shit. So she went in to this underworld kind of thing. She had to enter through a coffin, and she got down there. Some of the bridesmaids, who are basically like the minions of Su Yung, they tried to attack her, and there were two of them who tried to, and Allie came packing. She had an axe, and she used it on both of them and killed them. So we had death on the show. I thought someone was going to die in that concrete death match, but nope, it was during this goofy skit. Eventually, Su Yung did find her. She had her own axe, but Allie kept blocking it, so the two of them were fighting back and forth a little bit, and eventually Su Yung got the mandible claw on her and kind of knocked her out, but Allie was basically playing dead here. Su Yung got a knife and was about to cut her, but then Allie really quickly got her own knife and stabbed her right in the chest. So she went over, found Kiera Hogan. I think she was in another coffin, so she got her out, and they ran up to the previous coffin that Allie used to enter the Undead Realm. She was trying to get back, but she couldn't get it open, and that's when James Mitchell approached her and said, you know, I told you I would help you get in, but I didn't say anything about letting you out. So they're struggling, they're trying to get out. More bridesmaids are coming in, have them kind of cornered, and out of nowhere we see Rosemary, who has been established as one of Allie's best friends, who was once taken by Su Yung and who's basically been trapped down here in this Undead Realm for months now. She came in, she killed all the bridesmaids, or at least fought them off, and she was telling Allie and Kiera, you guys gotta go, you gotta get out of here. And that's when Su Yung, who obviously was not dead, she came back in, and her and Rosemary got into this weird fight back and forth, and then the bridesmaids weren't really dead. They started to pull her down, but Allie, of course, did not want to leave her friend, but Kiera was telling her, we gotta go. So they went through the coffin and came back into the real world, basically. Allie wanted to go back, but Kiera was telling her, like, there's nothing we can do, we can't go back. And then Allie, like, kind of yelled at her, saying, like, we have to, but it was kind of in, like, a demonic kind of voice. I can't believe I just recapped that whole thing. This was bizarre. Don Callis said it best when they went back to the commentary booth. He asked, what the hell was that? And that's basically the exact same thing I asked. It was cool to see James Mitchell back on TV. And Allie is adorable. I think she is extremely cute. And seeing her have kind of a dark side here, murdering fools and shit, I thought that was kind of cool. And it was good to see Rosemary again. So I'm intrigued to see where this story goes, see if we get any more skits in the Undead Realm. Will Allie go back to it? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. She needed James Mitchell's help before, but, you know, it's making a deal with the devil, and I don't know if she wants to do that again, so we'll see. Now, to get away from that goofy stuff, let's get to the real stuff. The main event was for the Impact World Championship. Austin Aries taking on Johnny Impact. Before the match, backstage, Johnny Impact had his own interview. Nowhere near as good as Austin Aries' interview, but he basically agreed and had Ty Valkyrie out there with him. So Ty came out with Johnny, and then of course Austin was flanked by Killer Cross and Moose, who for some reason was wearing some African type garb, looking like Akeem the African Dream on this show. I thought it was going to be really distracting during the match, but not really. This match has been built up very well. It's been built up almost like a shoot style, especially with Austin Aries, who's been putting up a lot of really bizarre tweets in recent months. And a lot of people have been worked. They did a segment at the Hall of Fame ceremony the previous night where a brawl broke out between the two of them, and people were really questioning, you know, was that real, you know? So even in 2018, people still get worked, and I love it, you know? Kayfabe still has some life left in it. It's not completely dead. It is dead for the most part, but it still has a heartbeat every now and then. The match itself, honestly, for a good chunk of it, was kind of sloppy, but not in a bad way, in a good way, where it felt like it was an actual fight. Like, it felt like these two legitimately hate each other, and they weren't wrestling. They were just trying to take each other down, and they were, like, in a real fight. So I thought that was a really cool touch. Eventually, they started to do the traditional wrestling stuff, but even that, it was looking pretty stiff with some of the chops and the kicks and stuff like that. At one point, Aries kicked Impact in the back of the head, and it looked like it connected pretty well, and he started to slug on him and slap him and stuff. So there was a lot of really good stuff in this match that made it look like a legitimate fight. One of the most impressive things I've ever seen, and of course it comes from John Morrison here. They're both of them on the outside. Aries was charging at Johnny, and he leapfrogged over Aries and landed 1 foot on the ring apron and 1 foot on the guardrail, because you see, with the way the arena was set up, the guardrail was really close to the ring. So kudos to the people who got ringside seats, because they got real up close. But yeah, he landed like that and then hit a moonsault off of there onto Austin Aries, so I thought that was a really cool spot. Some really cool things happened in this match. Won't go through every single thing, but as much as I listed, at one point, Impact hit a Spanish fly off the top rope, which looked beautiful, but it was only good for a 2 count. Austin Aries hit a Death Valley driver on the ring apron, but instead of Johnny landing on his back, it looked like he landed on his head and neck. It looked just ugly. He got him back in the ring, and Aries hit a 450, but only good for a 2 count. Johnny eventually got back into it, hit him with Starship Pain, but Aries grabbed the rope. He was close to the rope, so he grabbed the rope, so only good for a near fall there. Impact was going for another big move, but then Aries hit him with his roaring elbow, and then hit him with the brain buster, but Johnny got his feet on the ropes, so yet another near fall. Eventually, he locked in the last chancery. It looked like Johnny was going to give up there for a quick second. I thought Aries might get the win, but Taya, who of course was on the outside, was cheering him on to grab the ropes, and he did. He got to the ropes. At one point, they were fighting back and forth. Aries was going to lunge at Johnny, but Johnny moved, and then instead Aries dove through the ropes and connected with Taya on the outside. And from there, Johnny lost his shit. He went right after Aries, just started beating him up all around ringside and all that kind of stuff. Got him back in the ring, hit him with a brain buster. So the brain buster, of course, is Austin Aries' move, so he hit him with his own version of the brain buster, hit him with Starship Pain, and got the 1, 2, 3. Johnny Impact is the new Impact World Champion. Sounds redundant, but hey, that's his name. Of course, after the match, he checked on Taya, who of course was okay. They celebrated in the ring, and they went off the air with Johnny holding the championship high above his head. But of course, unfortunately, that is not the big story coming out of this match. The big story is after hitting him with Starship Pain and getting the 1, 2, 3, Aries immediately got up, no-sold the finish, left the ring, and flipped off. Now, I thought he was flipping off the crowd, but apparently he was pointing at the commentary booth where Don Callis is, like I mentioned earlier. Don Callis is one of the head honchos in charge of Impact Wrestling. I'm sure a big part of talent relations, so Aries was pointing at him and basically flipping him off, but he was also flipping off the crowd, and he left in a huff. So I guess this is also questioning whether this was real or worked. Was it a work or a shoot? A lot of people were questioning it. And also people who kind of figured it was a work, they were also thinking like, well, even if it is a work, that pretty much still is kind of dumb, because now people are only talking about that. There's the attention to Johnny winning the championship, which should have been a bigger moment, that kind of gets overshadowed here, because all the attention is now placed on whether or not Austin Aries went into business for himself, whether it was a work or shoot. Did he legitimately quit on this show? Now that's all people are talking about. Even still, coming out of this show, nobody give a fuck about Johnny Mundo winning the championship. All people are wondering is, did Austin Aries quit? Killer Cross and Moose were out there. They didn't interfere during the match at all. If this was real, was it a situation where the match maybe was supposed to go on a little longer and they cut it off short, and Aries was pissed about it? Who knows? I assume it was a work, and it just adds to the story of there being real life heat between Impact and Aries. The commentators were even mentioning during the match how this feud is on the level of Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart from 1997, which sounds ridiculous because this is nowhere near that, but they want to tell that story, so it's their prerogative to do that. But the match was really good. The main event was a really good match. Like I said, kind of sluggish and sloppy, but I think in a good way, where it felt like it was a real fight. That finish, a little questionable. If it was real, then okay, that's rare we see anything like that, and it puts Austin Aries in a bad light because now he looks like a prima donna asshole who no promoters would want to work with. But if it was a work, then fine. It keeps people guessing, but I think it undercuts Johnny's win. But either way, I'm intrigued. So good show, worth the money I spent purchasing it. So big thumbs up for me, and I look forward to continue following Impact Wrestling going forward. As for me, next time I'm talking to you guys will be for the Evolution show, and then after that, I guess Crown Jewel, if they're still going to be in Saudi Arabia. Hopefully not, but we'll see when it comes to that. But yeah, good stuff from Impact here tonight, and that's about it for me. So take care.